It's February, gamers, which means we now have mobile app revenue estimations on Apple as well as Google Play for all sorts of different games, including Arknights Enfield, like we're covering here on Hoaglandia Enfield. I thought it could be fun to dig on into this data a little bit today and talk about some comparisons to see how Arknights Enfield's launch month of January stacks up against the launch months of other similar games in recent years. To start with, for those not familiar, these numbers here come from a website that coalesces gotcha game revenue on Android as well as Apple mobile platforms. I'll link that in the video description down below. And it's essentially summarizing these numbers from a different third party tool called Sensor Tower, which pulls them directly from those app stores, is my understanding. That also means that these numbers aren't technically wholly inclusive of all the money these games are making, because it doesn't include PC or console platforms that don't have similar tracking APIs. It's also worth calling out that for most of the games on here that aren't newly added, like Arknights Enfield, they had the entire month of January to rack up the number that's shown for them in January 2026, whereas Arknights didn't drop until January 22nd, giving it only 9 days to accrue the over $29 million in estimated revenue shown here. Two interesting comparison for Arknight Enfield launch month, in my opinion, are Wuthering Waves as well as Zenless Zone Zero that dropped in the last year and a half or so. Wuthering Waves in particular is a comparison that I think is apt for Arknights Enfield because it had a similar end of month release, dropping on the 24th of its release month. And about the week or so that it was making revenue for its release month, it made around $25 million, which is very comparable to Arknights over 29 that it made in 9 days in January. Zenless Zone Zero is another recent to release action RPG style game, similar to Wuthering Waves and Arknights Enfield, but its launch month comparison isn't exactly an apples to apples comparison. While it did make a whopping 96 million USD estimated revenue in the month that it dropped, it also dropped at the start of the month, so this 96 million was accrued over a time span that was 3 times as long as what Arknights Enfield had, or closer to 4 times for Wuthering Waves' 7-day launch month. One thing that's certainly true about these styles of live service games is that their launch time is typically one of their high points for revenue. Looking at a more recent historical snapshot, something like Zenless Zone Zero, for example, despite having $96 million in revenue for its launch month, it's been considerably less than that for most of the months in the last year and a half or so, going back to November of 2024. We have total revenue here on the axis on the left with total downloads on the right, with we can see most of it being somewhere in the 10 to 20 million dollar range, with a couple of spikes up to around 40 million here in June of 25 and almost 60 million in December of 24. This is relatively typical. As someone who's looked at a lot of revenue for games like this, typically they'll have a big anticipated character or end of a content arc that brings a lot of players in and gets them spending, giving them bigger pushes at certain time periods. Similarly, Wuthering Waves isn't necessarily doing poorly, but if we look at its last 15 months worth of revenue, it's a pretty far cry from where it launched at the start. Honestly, looking pretty similar to Zenless Zone Zero, kind of bouncing in between, in this case, 15 million and 20 million, with a couple of bigger spikes up, likely on content releases, with maybe one notable dip down here below 10 million at the end of 2024. Last but certainly not least, I think giving a quick comparison to how kind of the first to market for this style of game has been doing over recent years in Genshin Impact. It's still making an absolutely obnoxious amount of money for a game that's as old as it is, still pumping out regular content. You've got peaks up to nearly $100 million in estimated revenue at the start of 2025, while staying pretty consistently above 20 million, with spikes up to things like 60 million in a single month, occurring somewhat regularly, even as recently as last month, making it the highest grossing gotcha game from January of 2026. Honestly, I've just still been having a ton of fun grinding up Arknights Endfield. I finally finished the main story. I've been loving the base building aspects, and the combat feels fluid and fun in a way that I haven't enjoyed in a game in a little while. If you want to hang out and watch some Arknights Endfield content, make sure you're subscribed to the channel. I'm going to be live streaming it 4 or 5 days during the week here, as well as at twitch.tv/Jeff Hogan, while occasionally posting other videos like this one talking about things related to the game in general, as well as occasional blueprint uploads and team breakdowns of characters I've been enjoying building and playing and how. As always, I appreciate everybody that makes it all the way through the end of one of my videos, and I hope the rest of your day is an excellent one, and may your pulls be spectacular, whoever you may be looking for.